The slap never landed. Amara's hand shot up, catching Mrs. Chioma Adebayo's wrist mid-swing. The crack of skin on skin echoed across the morning garden, silencing the birds. 20 pairs of eyes widened. Someone gasped. "Don't," Amara said quietly. Mrs. Chioma's face twisted with rage, her designer perfume clashing with the scent of hibiscus flowers. She yanked her arm free, diamonds glittering on her fingers. "How dare you touch me?" Papa Tunde stood between them, his weathered face gray with fear. The elderly gatekeeper's uniform hung loose on his thin frame, and his hands trembled as he clutched his cap. He'd worked at the Adebayo estate for 23 years. Amara had been here 3 days. "He's an old man," Amara continued, her heart hammering. "If you think he stole from you, call the police, but I won't stand here and watch you beat him like a dog." The other staff members shifted uncomfortably. Mama Ngozi, the head housekeeper, made a small sound in her throat. Chidi, the driver, stared at his shoes. No one spoke. No one ever spoke when Mrs. Chioma was angry. Mrs. Chioma's laugh was sharp as broken glass. "You've been here 3 days, girl. 3 days, and you think you can tell me what to do in my own home?" She turned to the crowd. "Did any of you see this insolence?" Grace, Mrs. Chioma's personal secretary, stepped forward smoothly. She was young, pretty, always perfectly dressed. "Ma, perhaps we should search Papa Tunde's quarters first. The bracelet might still be there." "My ruby bracelet," Mrs. Chioma announced to everyone, her voice dripping with accusation. 16 carats, set in gold. My grandmother's bracelet, worth more money than this thief will see in 10 lifetimes. And he thought he could just take it from my sitting room? Papa Tunde's voice cracked. "Madam, I swear, I never—" "Shut up!" Mrs. Chioma whirled on him. "I saw you cleaning near my room yesterday. You were alone, and now it's gone." Amara felt anger burn in her chest. This was wrong. Everything about this was wrong. "Mrs. Chioma, I cleaned your sitting room yesterday afternoon. I was there from 3 to 5. Papa Tunde wasn't anywhere near. Are you calling me a liar?" The garden went silent. Even the fountain seemed to stop bubbling. Amara swallowed hard. Her mother's voice echoed in her memory. "Don't go looking for trouble at that house. Don't end up like your father." But her father's voice was louder. "Always do what's right, even when it costs you." "I'm saying Papa Tunde doesn't steal," Amara said. "I'm saying maybe someone made a mistake." Mrs. Chioma's eyes narrowed to slits. "Grace, call the police. We'll let them search this thief's room and—" "I'll do it," Amara interrupted. "Let me search his room. If the bracelet is there, I'll find it." "Why would I let you?" "Because I know where it is." The words hung in the air. Mrs. Chioma went very still. Amara pressed on, her pulse racing. "I know where it is because I saw Grace near the gatehouse this morning, early, before dawn. I couldn't sleep, so I was looking out my window." She turned to Grace, whose perfect composure finally cracked. "What were you doing at Papa Tunde's quarters at 5 in the morning?" Grace's mouth opened and closed. I was checking if he'd arrived for work. His shift starts at 6. I wanted to speak with him about what?" Amara took a step closer. What could you possibly need to tell the gatekeeper at 5 in the morning that couldn't wait 1 hour? Mrs. Chioma's voice cut through like a blade. "That's enough. Grace has worked for me for 6 years. She's family. You're a maid who's been here 3 days and already causing trouble." She gestured at 2 of the male staff. "Chidi, Benson, go search Papa Tunde's room. Now." They hesitated, then moved toward the gatehouse at the edge of the compound. Papa Tunde's legs seemed to give out. He sank to his knees in the grass. "Please," he whispered. "Please, madam, I have grandchildren. I have—" "You should have thought of that before you stole from me." Amara knelt beside Papa Tunde, placing a hand on his shoulder. He was shaking. Up close, she could see tears tracking down his weathered cheeks. This man had probably worked harder in 1 week than Mrs. Chioma had in her entire life. And now he was being destroyed over a lie. Just like Papa, she thought. Just like they did to Papa. The memory crashed over her, her father on his knees like this, begging, while accusations rained down. Emmanuel had been the driver here 15 years ago. He'd been accused of embezzlement, fired without reference, blacklisted from every good job in Lagos. The shame had eaten him alive. 3 years later, he'd died, broken, bitter, and convinced he'd failed his family. Amara had been 6 years old. She remembered everything. She'd spent 15 years planning this. 15 years getting educated, getting trained as a domestic worker, waiting for an opening at the Adebayo estate. She'd come here for answers. She'd come here for justice. But she'd never imagined she'd walk straight into history repeating itself. Chidi and Benson emerged from the gatehouse. Chidi held something in his hand, and his face was grave. "No, no, no, no." "We found it, Ma," Chidi said quietly, holding up a gold bracelet with a ruby the size of a thumbnail. Under his mattress. The garden erupted. Staff members murmured to each other. Mrs. Chioma smiled triumphantly. Grace's expression was carefully neutral. Papa Tunde made a sound like a wounded animal. "I never. Please, God." "Call the police," Mrs. Chioma commanded, "and someone get Mr. Adebayo. I want my husband to see what kind of people we've been employing." "No." Amara stood up, her mind racing. "This is wrong. The evidence is right there, girl. Evidence can be planted." Amara turned to Grace. "You did this. You put that bracelet in his room." Grace's face flushed. "That's insane. Why would I—" "Because Mrs. Chioma told you to." The words dropped like a bomb. Someone actually gasped this time. Mrs. Chioma's face went from shock to fury in an instant. "Get out," she hissed at Amara. "Get your things and get out of my house right now, or I'll have you arrested for slander." "I'm not going anywhere until—" "What is going on here?" Everyone turned. Mr. Adekunle Adebayo stood at the garden entrance, briefcase in hand, his suit slightly rumpled from travel. He was a tall man, mid-50s, with intelligent eyes that swept across the scene. His wife's fury, Papa Tunde on his knees, the bracelet in Chidi's hand, and Amara standing defiant in the middle of it all. "Adekunle," Mrs. Chioma said, her voice suddenly smooth. "Thank God you're home. We've had a terrible incident. Papa Tunde stole my grandmother's bracelet. The police are on their way." Mr. Adebayo looked at Papa Tunde, then at the bracelet, then at Amara. "Who are you?" "Amara, sir. I started this week, kitchen and cleaning staff." "And what's your involvement in this?" Amara took a breath. This was it. She could back down, keep her job, stay quiet like everyone else. Or she could do what her father would have wanted her to do. "Your wife is framing an innocent man, sir, and I can prove it." The silence was absolute. Mrs. Chioma's voice was deadly quiet. "Adekunle, this girl has been here 3 days and is already making wild accusations. I want her fired and—" "Let her speak." Mr. Adebayo's tone was firm. He set down his briefcase. "Everyone stay exactly where you are. Amara, explain." So she did. She explained seeing Grace at the gatehouse. She explained the timing, how the bracelet was only reported missing after Papa Tunde's shift began. She explained that she'd cleaned Mrs. Chioma's sitting room the previous afternoon, and the bracelet had been on the side table then, which meant it went missing between 5 p.m. and this morning. Papa Tunde leaves at 6 p.m. every day, Amara said. Mama Ngozi can confirm. He wasn't here when the bracelet disappeared. Mama Ngozi, looking terrified, nodded slowly. It's true, sir. Papa Tunde keeps strict hours. This is ridiculous, Mrs. Chioma snapped. The bracelet was in his room. That's all the proof we need. Proof that someone put it there, Amara countered. Sir, check your security cameras. You have one in the hallway near the gatehouse, don't you? Mr. Adebayo studied her for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone. Benson, your head of security, pull up last night's footage from all cameras. Bring it to my study. Everyone else, wait here. Nobody leaves. Adekunle, this is absurd. Chioma. His voice was gentle but immovable. If Papa Tunde is guilty, the cameras will prove it. If he's innocent, they'll prove that too. Either way, we'll know the truth. He walked toward the house. After a moment, he turned back to Amara. You too, come with me. Amara followed, feeling every eye on her back. Grace's stare practically burned through her skull. Mrs. Chioma looked like she wanted to murder someone. What have I done? Amara thought. What have I just done? But she knew. She'd done exactly what her father had never gotten the chance to do. She'd fought back. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to like this video. It really helps us keep bringing you powerful content like this. Let's continue. Mr. Adebayo's study was all dark wood and leather, with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves and a massive desk. He gestured for Amara to sit, but she remained standing. Her legs felt like water, but she wouldn't let herself collapse now. How long have you been planning this? He asked quietly. Amara's breath caught. Sir, you're not just a maid, are you? You came here for a reason. He leaned against his desk, arms crossed. The way you observe things, the way you speak, the way you analyze, the timing, you're educated. Probably more educated than half my management staff. So why are you scrubbing floors in my house? There was no judgment in his voice, only curiosity. Amara decided on honesty. Partial honesty anyway. I needed this job, sir, and I couldn't stand by and watch an innocent man be destroyed. Noble, but there's something else. His eyes were too sharp, too knowing. Something personal. Before Amara could answer, Benson knocked and entered with a laptop. Sir, I have the footage. They gathered around the screen. Benson pulled up the camera feed from the previous evening. They watched Papa Tunde leave at 6 p.m., exactly as Amara had said. The hallway near the gatehouse remained empty until the camera mysteriously cut out at 10 p.m. Technical malfunction, Benson said. We've been having issues with that camera. How convenient, Mr. Adebayo muttered. What about the other cameras? Benson switched to a different feed, the main hallway that connected to the servants' wing. They fast-forwarded through hours of nothing. Then, at 5:17 in the morning, a figure appeared. Grace. She moved quickly, glancing over her shoulder. In her hand was something small and gold that caught the light. She disappeared in the direction of the gatehouse. 8 minutes later, she returned empty-handed. Mr. Adebayo's jaw tightened. Get Grace up here, now. Benson left. Amara felt a small surge of vindication mixed with dread. She'd been right, but being right didn't make this safer. Mrs. Chioma wouldn't forget this. Grace wouldn't forget this. "Thank you," Mr. Adebayo said to her. "Papa Tunde has worked for us for over 20 years. He's a good man. If you hadn't spoken up—" "Someone had to, sir." "Most people wouldn't have. Most people would have stayed quiet." He studied her again. "Why didn't you?" "Because my father didn't have anyone to speak up for him. Because someone needs to break the cycle. Because I've watched too many good people be crushed by people with power." "Because it was the right thing to do," Amara said simply. Grace arrived, followed by Benson and, uninvited, Mrs. Chioma. The lady of the house swept in like a storm. "I don't appreciate being summoned like a servant in my own home, Adekunle." "Sit down, Chioma." His tone made her blink. "Grace, sit." They sat. Mr. Adebayo turned the laptop around so they could see the screen. He pressed play. Grace's face drained of color as she watched herself on camera. Mrs. Chioma's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Fear, maybe, or calculation. "Well," Mr. Adebayo said to Grace, "what were you doing?" Grace's mouth trembled. I was... "Tell him you were checking on something I asked you to check," Mrs. Chioma said smoothly. "Tell him I sent you to see if Papa Tunde had been reporting on time lately, because I'd had complaints." "Is that true?" Mr. Adebayo asked Grace. Grace looked at Mrs. Chioma, then at Mr. Adebayo, then at her hands. She was shaking. Yes. Mrs. Chioma asked me to plant the bracelet in Papa Tunde's room?" Amara said quietly. "That's enough," Mrs. Chioma snapped. "Grace, you don't have to answer to some maid who—" "Grace," Mr. Adebayo interrupted, "I'm going to ask you a direct question, and I want a direct answer. Did my wife ask you to frame Papa Tunde?" Silence. Grace's hands twisted together. "Grace," Mrs. Chioma said, her voice like silk over steel. "Remember who pays your salary. Remember who gave you this opportunity when no one else would. Remember everything I've done for you." It was a threat wrapped in pretty words. Amara saw it. Mr. Adebayo saw it. Grace definitely saw it. "Sir," Grace whispered, tears now streaming down her face. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. She told me to do it. Mrs. Chioma told me Papa Tunde was getting too comfortable, that he'd been asking for a raise, and she wanted him gone. She said to plant the bracelet and make sure everyone saw him as a thief. She said..." Grace's voice broke. She said she'd done it before, that it was easy, that no one would question it. The room went cold. "You lying little..." Mrs. Chioma started. "Enough." Mr. Adebayo's voice cut through like a blade. "Grace, you're suspended immediately. We'll discuss your future employment later. Right now, I want you to write down everything, every detail, every conversation, every time my wife has asked you to do something like this. Benson will witness it." Grace nodded, sobbing. Mr. Adebayo turned to his wife. His face was a mask of controlled fury. "My office, now. Adekunle, you can't possibly believe—" "Now." Mrs. Chioma stood slowly. As she passed Amara, she leaned in close, her perfume cloying. "You have no idea what you've just done," she whispered. "No idea who you're dealing with. I will destroy you." Then she followed her husband out. Amara stood there, her knees finally giving out. She sank into a chair, her whole body shaking. Grace was crying at the desk, writing under Benson's watchful eye. In the distance, raised voices echoed from Mr. Adebayo's office, Mrs. Chioma's shrill accusations, and his deep, angry responses. What had she done? What had she just unleashed? Mama Ngozi appeared in the doorway, her face etched with worry and something else. Respect, maybe, or fear. "Child," she said softly, "you need to be very careful now. Very, very careful." "I know," Amara whispered. "No, you don't." Mama Ngozi glanced over her shoulder, then moved closer. "This isn't the first time, you know, what Grace said about it happening before. It's true. I've been here 25 years and I've seen it, over and over. Staff accused of things they didn't do. Staff destroyed over lies." She paused. "Your last name is Okonkwo, isn't it?" Amara's heart stopped. "Yes." "There was a driver here, long time ago, Emmanuel Okonkwo, got accused of stealing money from the household accounts. It wasn't true. I knew it wasn't true. But Mrs. Chioma had evidence, and Mr. Adebayo was traveling then, and by the time he came back, Emmanuel was already gone, blacklisted, ruined." Mama Ngozi's eyes were sad. "Was he your father?" Amara couldn't speak. She just nodded. "I thought so. You have his eyes, his courage too." Mama Ngozi gripped her arm. "But courage can get you killed in this house, child. Mrs. Chioma doesn't forget, and she doesn't forgive. You made her look foolish in front of her husband, in front of the staff. She will come for you. Then I'll be ready. Will you?" Mama Ngozi's voice was urgent. "Do you know how many people she's destroyed? Not just staff, competitors, enemies, anyone who threatens her control. She's not just rich, Amara. She's connected, powerful, and she's very, very patient." "So am I," Amara said. "I've been patient for 15 years. Understanding dawned on Mama Ngozi's face. "Oh, child, you didn't just come here to work, did you? You came here for revenge." "I came here for justice. In this house, there's no difference." Mama Ngozi sighed. "Listen to me. Take whatever money you've saved and leave. Tonight, don't tell anyone where you're going. Just disappear before—" A phone buzzed. Benson pulled out his cell, listened, then looked at Amara with wide eyes. "There's a fire in the servants' quarters. Your room." They ran. The whole household was running now, staff members with fire extinguishers, Chidi shouting into his phone for the fire department. Smoke poured from the window of Amara's small room on the second floor of the servants' wing. It wasn't a big fire. It was contained, controlled, but it was absolutely deliberate. Someone had set her room on fire. Mr. Adebayo appeared, tie loosened, face flushed from arguing with his wife. He took in the scene with sharp eyes. "Everyone back. Let the fire crew handle it. Amara, are you hurt?" "No, sir. I wasn't in my room." "Lucky." But his tone suggested he didn't think luck had anything to do with it. "Where's my wife?" "In the main house, sir," someone said. Mr. Adebayo's jaw tightened. He turned to Amara, and in his eyes she saw a mirror of her own understanding. This was a warning, a message, a promise of worse to come. "You'll sleep in the guest house tonight," he said. "Benson, I want security on her door, and Amara." He lowered his voice so only she could hear. "I don't know what your real agenda is here, but I'm starting to suspect. Whatever it is, whatever you're planning, you need to be very careful. My wife is not someone to underestimate." "I know, sir." "Do you?" He looked at her intently. "She once had a business rival's entire company bankrupted over a personal slight. She got a gossip columnist fired for writing an unflattering piece about her charity work. She's brilliant, ruthless, and she never leaves evidence. The only reason we caught her today is because you were watching and she got sloppy." He paused. "She won't get slopsy again." The firefighters declared the blaze out. The damage was minimal, a mattress, some clothes, but the message was clear. back down, or burn. Amara didn't sleep that night. She lay in the guest house bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to Benson's footsteps outside her door. Her father's face kept appearing in her mind. Emmanuel, proud and strong, then broken and defeated. She'd been too young to help him then. She wasn't too young anymore. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, then changed her mind. Hello? You're clever, I'll give you that. Mrs. Chioma's voice was smooth, almost friendly. But cleverness without wisdom is just arrogance. You humiliated me today, Amara, in front of my husband, my staff, everyone. Do you understand what that means? It means Papa Tunde keeps his job. Papa Tunde is nothing, a gatekeeper, irrelevant. A pause. But you're interesting. You fight for strangers. You risk everything for people who mean nothing to you. That's either very noble or very stupid. Maybe both. A soft laugh. I like you, actually. You remind me of myself when I was young, before I learned how the world really works. Her voice hardened. So I'm going to give you a choice. Leave tomorrow morning. I'll give you 3 months' salary as severance. You can go anywhere, do anything. I'll even write you a reference. Just walk away. And if I don't, then I'll destroy you the same way I destroyed your father. Amara's breath caught. So she knew. Of course she knew. Emmanuel was a good man, Mrs. Chioma continued conversationally. Loyal, honest, hard-working. But he made the same mistake you're making. He thought justice mattered more than survival. Do you know what happened to him after he left here? He couldn't get work anywhere, not in Lagos, not in Abuja, nowhere. I made sure of that. I called in favors, spread rumors, closed doors. By the end, he was delivering packages for pennies. He died in debt, didn't he? Broke and broken. Rage flooded through Amara, white-hot and blinding. You killed him. No, he killed himself by choosing pride over pragmatism, by thinking one man could fight the system, by believing... She laughed. That courage was enough. Her voice dropped to a whisper. It's not enough, Amara. It's never enough. So take my offer. Walk away. Live. I have a better idea, Amara said, surprised by how steady her voice was. Why don't you confess everything to your husband and the police, and I'll consider not exposing all the other staff you've framed over the years? Silence. Then Mrs. Chioma laughed, genuinely amused. Oh, you sweet, stupid girl. You think you've won something today? You haven't won anything. You've just painted a target on your back. Sleep well, Amara, while you still can. The line went dead. Amara set down her phone, her hands trembling. She'd expected threats. She'd expected danger. But hearing Mrs. Chioma admit what she'd done to Emmanuel, hearing the casual cruelty in her voice, there was a soft knock at the door. Benson's voice. Miss Amara, you okay in there? Fine, thank you. But she wasn't fine. She was terrified, and furious, and more determined than ever. Her father had died believing he'd failed, believing the lies, never knowing that his daughter would one day stand in the same house and fight the same fight, never knowing that truth would finally matter. Amara made a decision then. She wasn't just going to prove Papa Tunde's innocence. She wasn't just going to protect herself. She was going to expose everything. Every lie, every frame-up, every destroyed life. She was going to burn Mrs. Chioma's empire of fear to the ground, even if it killed her. The next morning, Mr. Adebayo summoned her to his study. He looked like he hadn't slept either. A stack of old files sat on his desk. I spent the night going through employment records. he said without preamble. 20 years of records. Do you know what I found? Amara shook her head. A pattern. Every year, sometimes multiple times a year, staff dismissed for theft or misconduct. No police reports filed, no investigations, just accusations, some evidence, and termination. All signed off by my wife while I was traveling. He pushed the files toward her. I found your father's file. Amara's hands shook as she opened it. There he was. Emmanuel Okonkwo, driver, employed 2008-2010. Terminated for embezzlement. Amount N500,000. Evidence, bank statements showing deposits to his account. It was planted, Amara whispered, just like the bracelet. I know, the bank statements are obvious forgeries. I had an expert look at them last night. The signature doesn't match the bank's records. The account number is wrong. My wife must have had Grace, or whoever her assistant was back then, create fake documents. He ran a hand over his face. I trusted her to run the household. I was building my company, traveling constantly, and I trusted her, and she used that trust to terrorize people. Why? Amara asked. Why would she do this? Control, power, fear. Mr. Adebayo leaned back. My wife grew up poor. Did you know that? Dirt poor. She clawed her way up through beauty, intelligence, and ruthlessness. By the time I met her, she'd already learned that fear is more reliable than love, that control is more valuable than loyalty. She runs this household like a dictatorship because that's the only way she knows how to keep power. That doesn't excuse what she's done. No, it doesn't. He met her eyes. I want to help you. I want to make this right. But I need you to tell me the truth. All of it. Why are you really here? So Amara told him. She told him about her father's slow decline, his depression, his death. She told him about her mother's tears, about growing up in poverty while the Adebayos lived in a mansion. She told him about planning for years to get into this household, to find proof, to expose the truth. I didn't come here for revenge, she finished. I came here for justice, for my father, for Papa Tunde, for everyone Mrs. Chioma has destroyed. Mr. Adebayo was quiet for a long moment. And what will justice look like to you? The truth, all of it, made public. These files released, every victim cleared, Mrs. Chioma held accountable. That will destroy my family's reputation. Your wife already did that, Amara said gently. I'm just asking you to face it. He nodded slowly. You're right. Of course you're right. He stood, walked to the window overlooking the gardens. I built a tech empire on principles of transparency and integrity, but I let my own house become a place of secrets and terror. I'm complicit in this, Amara. By being absent, by not asking questions, by letting Chioma handle everything without oversight. So help me fix it. He turned to her. If I do this, if I help you expose everything, my wife will fight back with everything she has. She has powerful friends, lawyers, money. She'll come after both of us. I know. You could still walk away, take my offer instead of hers. I'll clear your father's name, give you enough money to start over somewhere else, anywhere you want. You can have justice for your family without putting yourself in danger. It was tempting. God, it was tempting. But Amara thought of Papa Tunde's face, of Grace's tears, of Mama Ngozi's resignation. She thought of all the people whose names were in those files, all the Emmanuel Okonkwos who'd been destroyed by lies. No, she said. This is bigger than me now, bigger than my father. If I walk away, Mrs. Chioma wins, and she'll just do it again to someone else. Mr. Adebayo smiled sadly. You have more courage than I do. You're here, aren't you? You didn't have to believe me. You didn't have to dig into those records. You didn't have to question your wife. Amara stood. Courage isn't absence of fear, sir. It's doing what's right despite the fear. Your father would be proud of you. Tears burned behind Amara's eyes, but she blinked them back. Then let's make sure his name is cleared, along with everyone else's. They made a plan. Mr. Adebayo would confront Mrs. Chioma with the evidence, demand a full accounting, and insist she make restitution to every person she'd wronged. If she refused, he would file for divorce and release the files publicly. Either way, the truth would come out. It won't be clean, he warned. She'll fight. There will be scandal, media attention, legal battles. Are you prepared for that? I've been preparing for this for 15 years. But preparation and reality were different things. That afternoon, Mrs. Chioma summoned the entire household staff to the main dining room. She stood at the head of the long table, immaculate in designer clothing, her smile cold as ice. I understand there have been some misunderstandings lately, she said sweetly. Some unfortunate accusations and hasty conclusions. I want to clear the air. Papa Tunde sat near the back, looking confused. Mama Ngozi watched warily. Grace was notably absent. She'd been sent away pending investigation. Papa Tunde, Mrs. Chioma said, I owe you an apology. It seems there was indeed a mistake regarding my bracelet. I was hasty in my accusations. I hope you can forgive me. Papa Tunde looked like he might cry. Thank you, madam. Thank you. And Amara. Mrs. Chioma's eyes locked onto hers. I appreciate your enthusiasm for justice. It's refreshing. However, I think perhaps you were a bit overzealous. Sometimes mistakes happen. We're all human. There's no need to make a federal case out of every little thing. It was a masterclass in manipulation. Mrs. Chioma was rewriting the narrative, making herself the gracious employer who'd made an innocent mistake, making Amara the troublemaker who'd blown things out of proportion. In fact, Mrs. Chioma continued, I'd like to reward Amara's dedication. I'm promoting her to personal assistant, now that Grace is taking some personal time. Double salary, better quarters. What do you say, Amara? Will you work directly for me? The room held its breath. Amara understood the game. Accept the promotion, and she'd be under Mrs. Chioma's direct control. Refuse, and she'd look ungrateful, difficult. That's very generous, Amara said carefully. But I'm happy where I am. Mrs. Chioma's smile didn't waver. I insist. It would mean so much to me. After all, we should be allies, not adversaries. Two strong women in this household working together. I appreciate the offer, but I really must insist. The smile stayed, but the eyes were shark cold. Unless you're not happy here, unless you'd prefer to seek employment elsewhere. There it was, the real message. Submit or leave. 6th. Before Amara could respond, Mr. Adebayo entered the room. Chioma, a word, now. His tone brooked no argument. Mrs. Chioma's facade cracked slightly, but she recovered. Of course, darling. We'll continue this conversation later, Amara. As they left, Mama Ngozi leaned over to Amara. You need to be very careful now. She's backed into a corner, and cornered animals are dangerous. I know. No, you don't. When Mrs. Chioma gets desperate. Mama Ngozi's voice dropped to barely a whisper. There was a maid, years ago. She found out something she wasn't supposed to know, about Mrs. Chioma's past, before she married Mr. Adebayo. The girl threatened to tell. She paused. There was an accident. The girl fell down the stairs, broke her neck. Amara felt ice water pour down her spine. You think Mrs. Chioma killed her? I think the girl knew something dangerous, and then she was dead. The police ruled it accidental. Mrs. Chioma cried beautifully at the funeral, and no one ever asked questions again. Mama Ngozi gripped Amara's hand. That's what I'm trying to tell you. This isn't just about jobs or reputations anymore. You've seen too much. You know too much. Please, child, leave while you still can. But Amara couldn't leave. Not now. Not when she was so close. That evening, Mr. Adebayo called her to his study again. His face was grim. I confronted Chioma with the files. She denied everything. Said Grace must have been acting alone, that she had no knowledge of any frame-ups, that the files were obviously forgeries meant to discredit her. But the bank statements? She claims Grace could have forged those too, that Grace was unstable, jealous, trying to turn me against my wife. He slammed his hand on the desk. She's brilliant, Amara. Every defense is plausible, every excuse reasonable. Without Grace's testimony, without concrete proof that Chioma herself gave the orders. We have the security footage, which shows Grace planting evidence, not Chioma. My wife's hands are clean, as always. Mr. Adebayo looked exhausted. I believe you. I believe Grace. I believe my wife is guilty of everything you say. But belief isn't proof, not the kind that would hold up in court. Then what do we do? He was quiet for a long moment. I don't know. I've frozen her access to our joint accounts. I've moved into the guest wing. I've made it clear that our marriage is over. But legally, professionally, I can't do anything without more evidence. What if I could get that evidence? Mr. Adebayo looked at her sharply. What do you mean? Mrs. Chioma called me last night. She admitted what she did to my father. She threatened me. Amara pulled out her phone. I didn't record it. I didn't think fast enough. But what if I could get her to admit it again, on tape this time? That's dangerous. If she realizes you're recording, she won't. People like Mrs. Chioma, they're so confident in their power. They think they're untouchable. That makes them careless. Amara leaned forward. Let me try. Let me meet with her, get her talking. If she admits to even half of what she's done, we'll have proof. And if she doesn't admit anything, if she just has you killed instead? The blunt words hung in the air. Amara swallowed hard. Then I guess you'll know she's guilty. That's not funny. I'm not joking, sir, but I'm also not afraid. Not anymore. She thought of her father, of Papa Tunda, of the nameless maid who'd fallen down the stairs. Someone has to stand up to her. Someone has to say, no more. Mr. Adebayo studied her for a long time. Finally, he nodded. If you're going to do this, we do it smart. You wear a wire, a proper one, police grade. Benson has contacts in security who can set it up, and you don't meet her alone. I'll be nearby, listening. Any sign of trouble, I come in. She won't talk if she thinks anyone's listening. Then we make sure she doesn't think that. But Amara, his voice was firm. You're not doing this without backup. Those are my terms. Take them or I shut this whole thing down right now. Amara nodded. Okay, your terms. Good. Now, how do we get her to meet with you? That turned out to be easier than expected. The next morning, Amara received a text from an unknown number. Old Estate, 4 p.m. today. Come alone. This is your last chance to walk away. See, the Old Estate was a property the Adebayos had owned before building their current mansion. It sat on the outskirts of Lagos, slowly decaying. Mr. Adebayo had kept it for sentimental reasons, but rarely visited. It was isolated, private, and deeply symbolic. This was where Emmanuel had worked, where the Adebayo fortune had first begun. Mrs. Chioma had chosen her battlefield well. At 3:30, Amara arrived with Mr. Adebayo and Benson. The tech specialist had fitted her with a tiny recording device, completely invisible under her clothes. It would capture everything within 20 feet. "I'll be in the car, half a mile down the road," Mr. Adebayo said. "Any trouble, you say the word sunshine, and I'm calling the police and coming in." Sunshine. Got it. "Amara." He gripped her shoulder. "You don't have to do this. We can find another way." "There is no other way. You know that." She managed a smile. "Besides, I've come too far to quit now." She walked up the overgrown driveway alone. The old estate was magnificent, even in decay. Colonial architecture, sprawling grounds, the bones of wealth. She could picture her father here, young and hopeful, before everything went wrong. Mrs. Chioma stood on the front steps, elegant as always. She smiled as Amara approached. "You came. I wasn't sure you would. You said it was my last chance. I wanted to hear what you had to say." "Smart girl. Come, let's talk inside. The neighbors are nosy." There were no neighbors for miles, but Amara followed her in. The house was dusty, furniture covered in sheets. Their footsteps echoed on marble floors. Mrs. Chioma led her to what had once been a grand sitting room. "This is where it all began, you know," Mrs. Chioma said, looking around. "Adekunle's first real success. He bought this house to prove he'd made it. I was so proud of him." She turned to Amara. "I was also a secretary back then, not his secretary. I worked at the company he was trying to buy. But I saw him at meetings, saw how brilliant he was, how hungry. I made sure he noticed me. Is there a point to this story? The point is that I understand ambition. I understand wanting something so badly you'll do anything to get it." Mrs. Chioma sat gracefully on a covered couch, dust rising around her. "You want justice for your father. I respect that. It's misguided, but I respect it." "Misguided? Your father was weak, Amara. He could have taken my offer back then. Money, recommendations, a clean slate somewhere else. But he refused. He wanted to clear his name, wanted the truth to come out. And what did that get him?" She shook her head. "Nothing. Worse than nothing. It got him dead." Amara forced herself to stay calm. The recording device was running. "So, you admit you framed him?" "I admit he was in my way. Emmanuel was asking questions, noticing things. He was friendly with the accountant, and the accountant was getting suspicious about some of my expenditures. Personal purchases I'd made using household funds. Nothing major, but enough to be embarrassing if discovered." Mrs. Chioma examined her nails. "So I created a bigger scandal, forged evidence of embezzlement, made sure Adekunle was traveling when it came to light, and by the time my husband returned, Emmanuel was already gone. You destroyed his life. I protected mine. There's a difference." She looked at Amara with something almost like sympathy. "You don't understand yet because you're young, but there are two types of people in this world, those who have power and those who are crushed by it. I decided long ago which type I would be." "By crushing others?" Mrs. Chioma tilted her head slightly. "By doing what was required. Emmanuel was only the beginning. There were others before him." Her smile returned, calm and practiced. "That's why this conversation matters, Amara. You're standing at a crossroads. You can be wise, accept what I'm offering, and walk away with your future intact. or you can resist and watch everything you care about unravel. Amara swallowed. You're talking about destroying me. I'm talking about outcomes, Mrs. Chioma replied evenly. People disappear from relevance every day. Careers end. Names are dragged through the mud. Families are left explaining things they don't understand. It's unfortunate, but it happens. The air felt suddenly thin. So this is a threat. It's a warning, Mrs. Chioma said softly, and a generous one. She stepped closer. 3 million naira, a ticket to anywhere you choose, and your father's name restored. Adekunle will correct the records. Letters will be sent. Apologies issued. Emmanuel Okonkwo will be remembered for the man he truly was. All you have to do is leave Lagos and never involve yourself in this again. And if I say no? Amara asked. Mrs. Chioma's smile faded, replaced by something colder. Then life becomes very difficult for you. Doors will close. Support will vanish. You'll find yourself standing alone, wondering how everything fell apart so quickly. You think you can control all of that? I already do, Mrs. Chioma said. Grace will revise her account. The footage tells a different story now. The financial trail is old and incomplete. Everyone who could challenge it has moved on. There are no loose ends, Amara, only choices. I could go to the authorities. Mrs. Chioma gave a quiet laugh. And say what? That you believe I'm responsible? Belief isn't evidence. Suspicion isn't proof. You'd be dismissed before you finished your first sentence. She turned toward the window. For 25 years, I've kept order in that house. People stay silent because they understand the cost of speaking. Not because they're afraid, because they're practical. She looked back at Amara. You, on the other hand, are emotional. Brave, perhaps, but bravery without planning is reckless. Amara stood slowly. You're right. If I were thinking only of myself, I'd take your money and disappear. But my father raised me differently. Mrs. Chioma scoffed. Raised you to believe in fairness, in accountability? Those ideas only exist for people without influence. Maybe, Amara said, but I still believe in truth. Mrs. Chioma's eyes narrowed. Truth is meaningless without power. Then it's a good thing I brought both, Amara replied. She reached into her pocket and lifted her phone. The screen glowed faintly. This conversation has been recorded. Every offer, every warning, every admission. The color drained from Mrs. Chioma's face. You're lying. It's already being saved elsewhere, Amara continued calmly. Mr. Adebayo has access. So does Benson. I didn't come here alone, even if it looked that way. Mrs. Chioma took a step forward, then stopped. Her confidence cracked. Recording without permission is unlawful. One-party consent applies, Amara said. I agreed to the recording. That's enough. Silence stretched between them. Mrs. Chioma's voice changed, becoming urgent. We can still resolve this. I can increase the offer. 10 million. More, if necessary. Amara shook her head. There's nothing you can offer me that would make this right. You think this ends well for you? Mrs. Chioma snapped. You think people like you win? I don't need to win, Amara said. I just need the truth to be heard. Mrs. Chioma stared at her, breathing hard, the mask finally gone. And for the first time, she looked uncertain. You've given me enough. You've given me exactly what I needed. Amara backed toward the door. A full confession, in your own words, admitting to framing my father, to terrorizing your staff, to threatening to kill me. It's all there. Mrs. Chioma's eyes narrowed dangerously. If you leave with that recording, you're signing your death warrant. If I don't leave with this recording, I'm dead anyway. You just said so yourself." Amara reached the doorway. "The difference is, this way, you go down with me, and I think Mr. Adebayo will make sure the world knows exactly who you are. He'll never. He already has. While you've been talking, he's been making copies, sending them to lawyers, to journalists, to the police. It's over, Mrs. Chioma. Your empire of fear is over." For a moment, Amara thought Mrs. Chioma might attack her physically. The older woman's hands were clenched into fists, her face contorted with rage. But then she heard it, the sound of a car engine, footsteps running toward the house. Mr. Adebayo burst through the door, Benson behind him. He took in the scene, his wife's fury, Amara's defensive posture, and positioned himself between them. "It's over, Chioma," he said quietly. "I heard everything. We all did. You set me up." Mrs. Chioma's voice was poison. "You used this girl to trap me. You trapped yourself. You couldn't resist gloating, could you? Couldn't resist explaining how clever you'd been, how you'd gotten away with it all." Mr. Adebayo looked at his wife with something like sadness. "I loved you. I trusted you, and you turned our home into a prison. I built that home. I made it run perfectly, every single day managing staff, handling problems, keeping everything perfect for you while you traveled and built your precious company." Mrs. Chioma was screaming now. "You have no idea what I sacrificed, what I did to maintain order. You terrorized innocent people. You framed them, destroyed their lives, threatened to kill a young woman." His voice cracked. "How did I not see this? How did I not know?" "Because you didn't want to know. Because it was easier to let me handle everything while you played tech genius." She laughed bitterly. "You're just as guilty as I am, Adekunle. You let this happen." He flinched. "You're right. I am guilty. I was absent when I should have been present. I looked away when I should have questioned. I let you have unchecked power because it was convenient." He pulled out his phone. "But I'm not looking away anymore." "What are you doing?" "Calling the police. You're going to be arrested for fraud, conspiracy, threatening violence, and about a dozen other charges. Our lawyers will work out the details." Mrs. Chioma's eyes went wild. She looked at Amara, at Mr. Adebayo, at Benson blocking the door. "You can't do this. I'm your wife." "You were my wife. Now you're a criminal." His hand was shaking, but his voice was steady. "Officers are on their way. Benson will keep you here until they arrive." For a moment it looked like Mrs. Chioma might try to run. Then her shoulders sagged. The fight went out of her, replaced by cold, calculating anger. She looked at Amara with pure hatred. "This isn't over. You think you've won? But you don't understand how deep my connections go. I'll be out in days. And when I am? When you are, you'll be facing civil suits from every person you've wronged." Mr. Adebayo interrupted. "I'm personally funding their legal representation. Emmanuel Okonkwo's family will be first in line." Amara felt tears prick her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. The police arrived 20 minutes later. Mrs. Chioma went with them, still protesting, still threatening, still convinced she'd find a way out. Maybe she would. Maybe her connections would save her. But maybe, just maybe, the truth would be stronger than money. If you've made it this far, thank you for staying with us through this powerful story. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. We bring you compelling narratives like this every week. Now let's see how Amara's journey ends. The next week passed in a blur. Mr. Adebayo held a full staff meeting, apologizing to everyone for the culture of fear that had festered under his roof. Papa Tunde was formally reinstated with a raise and a public apology. Mama Ngozi cried. Several staff members who'd been fired over the years were contacted and offered compensation. Grace returned, shaky but determined to testify. "I should have spoken up years ago," she told Amara. "I was a coward. Mrs. Chioma gave me a job when I was desperate, and I thought I owed her everything. But loyalty to evil is still evil." "You spoke up when it counted," Amara said. "That takes courage." The media got hold of the story. Headlines screamed about the billionaire's wife who'd terrorized her staff. Social media exploded with outrage and support. Some defended Mrs. Chioma, calling it a witch hunt. Others shared their own stories of abuse by the wealthy and powerful. Amara's mother called, sobbing. "Your father would be so proud. So proud, baby girl. I did it for him, Mama, and for everyone else she hurt. I know. But baby, please be careful. People like that, they don't forget." "I know, Mama, but I'm not afraid anymore, and neither should you be." 2 weeks after the confrontation, Mr. Adebayo called Amara to his study one final time. Emmanuel Okonkwo's file lay on the desk, but now it had been updated. The embezzlement charges were marked as fraudulent, employee fully exonerated. A formal letter of apology was attached, along with a check for compensation. "It's not enough," Mr. Adebayo said quietly. "Money can't give you back your father, but it's what I can offer. 5 million naira for the damage done to your family, plus funding for any education or business venture you want to pursue." Amara stared at the check. It was more money than her father had made in his entire life. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll use it well. Say you'll build something good from all this pain." He paused. "And say you'll stay, not as a maid, as my personal assistant. Real assistant, not like Grace. Someone I can trust to tell me the truth, to keep me honest, to make sure nothing like this ever happens again. You want me to work for you? I want you to help me rebuild this house, this family, this company. I built an empire, but I built it on sand. I need someone with integrity, with courage, to help me build something that lasts." He smiled sadly. "Your father had those qualities. So do you. Will you help me?" Amara thought about it. She could take the money and leave, start fresh somewhere else. She could put Lagos and the Adebayo estate and all this pain behind her. But she thought about Papa Tunde, about Mama Ngozi, about all the staff who'd suffered in silence. She thought about her father, who'd never gotten the chance to fight back. And she thought about the power she'd discovered in herself, the power to stand up, speak truth, and make things right. "I'll stay," she said, "but on one condition." "Name it." "We don't just reform this household. We make it a model. Fair wages, proper contracts, respect for every person who works here, and we create a fund, the Emmanuel Okonkwo Justice Fund, for workers who've been wronged by their employers, who need legal help, who need someone to fight for them." Mr. Adebayo's eyes filled with tears. "Your father would have loved that. Yes, absolutely, yes." They shook hands. As Amara left the study, she passed through the garden where this had all begun. Papa Tunde was there, tending the flowers. He looked up and smiled. "Miss Amara, thank you for everything." "You don't have to thank me, Papa Tunde. You did nothing wrong." "I know that now. But before, I was starting to believe the lies, starting to think maybe I had done something, forgotten something. That's what fear does. makes you doubt yourself. He touched her arm gently. You reminded us that truth matters, that fighting back matters. That's worth more than any job. Amara walked through the garden, past the fountain, toward the servants' quarters. The place that had been a prison for so many was slowly transforming. New policies, new hope, new possibilities. Her phone buzzed, a message from her mother. Your father visited me in a dream last night. He was smiling. He said to tell you he's proud. He said you did what he couldn't do. He said he loves you. Amara sat on a bench, tears streaming down her face. She'd come to this house looking for justice, but she'd found something more. She'd found her voice, her strength, her purpose. Mrs. Chioma was in custody, facing multiple charges. The trial would be long and ugly. She might even win some of the charges, might serve minimal time. Wealth and connections could work miracles in Nigeria's justice system. But the truth was out. The staff knew they could speak up. Other households were watching, questioning their own practices. Change was beginning, slow and imperfect, but real. Amara pulled out her father's photograph, the one she'd kept hidden since arriving. Emmanuel smiled at the camera, young and hopeful, not yet broken by lies. I did it, Papa, she whispered. I cleared your name. I stopped her. I made them see. The wind rustled through the trees, carrying the scent of jasmine. Somewhere, a bird sang. The mansion that had symbolized power and fear was slowly becoming something else, something better. Amara stood, pocketing the photograph. She had work to do, a fund to establish, policies to implement, a system to change. One person couldn't fix everything. One act of courage couldn't undo decades of abuse. But it was a start, a crack in the foundation of fear. And through that crack, light could enter. She walked back toward the house, her head high, her heart full of purpose. Behind her, the garden bloomed. Ahead of her, the future waited, uncertain but full of possibility. Justice wasn't a destination, it was a journey, and Amara was just getting started. If this story moved you, if it made you think about justice, courage, and standing up for what's right, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Your support helps us create more powerful stories that matter. Comment below about a time you had to stand up for yourself or someone else. We read every comment and your stories inspire us. Thank you for watching, and remember, one person's courage can change everything. Until next time, keep fighting for what's right.